everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to talk to all of you wonderful people here today because this is a cause that I am really, really passionate about. Not only female empowerment, empowering women to dream big and accomplish big things, but of course entrepreneurship, leadership, and service. And so what I'd like to do tonight is talk to you a little bit about my background, talk to you about some of my own experiences, and how that relates to entrepreneurship, leadership, and service. And then afterwards, if you guys have any questions, I would really love to have you guys participate and ask anything that you're curious about. So throughout my presentation, if any question pops into your head that you'd like to ask at the end, I'll give you the opportunity to do so. So just to introduce myself, my name is Zoe Damacela, and I started a business when I was in high school that has really taken me to some really incredible and amazing places and allowed me to really be on my way to achieving my dreams. But although I've accomplished a lot in my time, it really didn't start out that way. My gorgeous mom is here today, and I think I owe a lot of my story to her. She's my biggest inspiration. Growing up, we struggled through some really, really tough times. My mom was born in Ecuador, and she had me when she was pretty young, and so as I'm sure many of you can relate to, growing up was really tough. We struggled a lot with finances. A lot of the times, everything was really uncertain. We moved around a lot. We were even homeless at one point, and we had to live in a shelter. And so I didn't come from any kind of privilege. There was nothing at all that was special or different or unique about me. I had all of the disadvantages that you can possibly think of, but rather than taking my background as a hindrance, I decided to turn those circumstances into a driving force to dream big and to think of something better and to envision a better future for myself and also a better future for my community and for the world at large. So when I was, actually the story really begins when I was 8 years old. I really, really wanted a Razor scooter. That was like my biggest ambition, was to just get this Razor scooter. I saw all of my friends with these scooters and I didn't have one and I felt really left out. And so I remember asking my mom if I could have one of these scooters, and I came home one day and I was like, Mom, I really want this scooter, can you get it for me? And of course at the time, we were living in low-income housing, we were on food stamps, and my mom was like, no way, those scooters are like $60, we don't have that type of money. And I kept bothering her about it until one day she finally said, all right, stop bothering me. If you really want this scooter, then you're gonna have to pitch in for it. So if you can raise half the money yourself, I'll put in the other half and we can go get your scooter. And I know now that, that she kind of told me this to deter me, really, because she just wanted me to stop bothering her, and she thought that I'd be like, oh, well, that's never gonna happen. Where's an 8-year-old gonna get $30 from? Oh, well, I'll give that up. But instead, I took that as a challenge, and so I was like, all right, Mom. And so I went into my room and I grabbed a whole bunch of construction paper and I grabbed like glitter and magazines and stuff like that, and I started making little greeting cards. And so they said like happy birthday and thank you cards and invitations and stuff. And I went outside and I sat in front of my house and I sat on the front step and I was calling down anybody who walked by, and I was selling people birthday cards and Christmas cards in the middle of the summer. But by the end of the day, I had made $30, and I ran into the house and I showed it to my mom, and I was like, there you go, Mom, let's go get my scooter. And so I think that really taught me an important lesson, that you really have the power to take your life and your circumstances into your own hands. Even if you think that you're powerless, even if you think that something is too daunting or too impossible, if you have that goal in mind and you're willing to put in some hard work, you can really be amazed at the results. So I continued to sort of like sell different things, mostly like to family members and to friends. I mean, I was making like little greeting cards, I made jewelry, I made headbands and barrettes and bracelets. I think I was selling like waffles at one point. I was selling like manicures, anything that I could possibly sell. I always was selling it because I just wanted to have money. I wanted that level of financial independence. I didn't want to be having to ask my mom for allowances or money all the time, because I knew that we were struggling. And so by the time I was 13, I was in junior high, and I started to sort of think about where I wanted my future to go. And I remember thinking that I was kind of interested in fashion. And so I enrolled in a class at my school, a fashion class, where I learned how to sew, and I started making clothes. And I would stay after school and use the sewing machines, and I would come in early in the morning and use the sewing machines, and I'd come in during my lunch period and just sew the whole time, and I was just making clothes for myself. And people sort of started to notice the clothes that I was making, and they started to ask me questions about it. And so I said, hey, it's for sale. If you want to buy it, like, you can buy it. And so my very first dress, I sold to one of my friends for $13. And I had spent hours making it, and I probably spent more on the fabric that I ended up getting for the dress. But I remember that feeling of selling my first dress and thinking, like, you know what, this could probably be a career. This is something that I really enjoy doing, and even though I only got $13 for it, and it took me like 6 hours to make it, and the fabric was probably more, it's still something that I really love. It's something that I really enjoy. And so I started to work on it more and more, and so there's pictures of me when I was in high school sewing away on a sewing machine. And I just worked at it and worked at it every single day. I was practicing sewing techniques. I was watching YouTube videos about sewing. I was staying after school working with my teacher, trying to teach myself sewing, sewing, sewing. That's all I was thinking about. And so when I was 14, I designed my very first collection, and I convinced my sewing teacher to help me put on to showcase my collection during a fashion show at school. And so there's a picture of my very first collection. I started to sort of formulate this idea of how I would organize this business, how I would start selling it, who I would sell it to. I started to think about, like, what type of person might buy this clothes, and all this was before I had learned anything about business. All I was thinking was, you know, what type of girl might buy these clothes? Are my clothes going to be for girls and guys? Are they going to be for older women? Are they going to be for teenagers? Are they going to be for kids? And it was a passion of mine that really sort of like took over my life because it was something that I really loved doing. So I continued to work on it, and my technique just got better and better. When I first started sewing, I could not sew a straight line to save my life. All of the first garments that I made were absolutely awful. They were coming apart, buttons were falling off, things were lopsided and sort of falling apart, and so I was not good at design or sewing whatsoever. But the more I worked on it, the more effort I put into it, the more time I spent devoted to learning this skill, the better I got. And so I started to make better and better garments, and I could really see the results of all the work that I was putting into learning this trade. So by the time I was a junior, I had already been selling dresses for the past 3 years, and so by this time I had sort of like learned how to sew the right way. I had started selling clothes first to my friends, then to classmates at school, and then I started selling like prom dresses to the seniors to wear to their prom, and I was selling homecoming dresses, and so I decided that my business was going well. I was probably selling like maybe one dress a month or something like that, but making, you know, maybe $40 or $50 from each dress. So it was something that I enjoyed, so I think that I could probably take this to the next level. And what I really needed was a strong business foundation. I had the creative side, and I knew that the design skill was there, but I didn't know how to run a business. And so I enrolled in a class, a business class, an entrepreneurship class, and started to sort of learn the business skills, the entrepreneurship skills that I needed to take something that was just sort of a hobby to something that was really a profitable business. And so I did the same sort of intensive learning that I did when I was learning how to sew. I sat with my teacher every day after school. I came in and bothered her every day during my lunch period. I would come in early and talk to her. I was sending her emails all day long. And I started to write this business plan and started to think about marketing, thinking about how to price my garments, thinking about all the things that were going into this business in order to make it more profitable and more successful. And my business plan ended up being really good, and I started to compete in business plan competitions. And so I would go to these events and I would showcase sort of my idea on how I would start my business to investors, to venture capitalists, to entrepreneurship teachers, to corporate executives, and I started to get really positive feedback. And so I started to win like cash prizes. I started to be able to travel. I traveled to New York City to present my business plan, and it did give me this sense of empowerment, because it was like, you know, I love fashion and I love design, but I'm not just a fashion designer, I'm now an entrepreneur and I'm a business owner, and people are really reacting very well to my business idea. And so I started to do a lot of sort of like local interviews for radio stations and for newspapers and things like that, because I started this business and I was a teenager. And one day I get a phone call, and it's from the Tyra Banks show. And they say that the woman on the phone tells me that Tyra Banks was exercising in her exercise room, I guess, one day, and she was watching TV and she saw me randomly on some news channel, and so she like hunted me down and she found my phone number and she wanted me to come to New York to be on the Tyra show. And so I thought that it was a joke, and I was like laughing, like, yeah, right, okay. But it turned out to be true. So I went to New York and I got to meet Tyra and be on the show, and she told me that she wanted to be my mentor, that she liked my ambition, that she liked my business idea, and that she was sort of going to help me come up in the industry. So this is a photo of Tyra modeling one of my garments. She put me on the front cover of her magazine, she introduced me to other fashion designers, and it was great to sort of have someone who is already well established in the industry start to tell me that she liked my idea and that I was sort of on the right track. So from there, I continued to work really hard. I mean, every single day I was working on my business non-stop. From the minute I woke up until the minute I went to bed, it was all thinking about business. And it really started to pay off. I won a business plan competition, and because of that, I got to travel to Washington, D.C. and meet with President Obama in the Oval Office. And so at this time, I was 17 years old. So 17-year-old girl, and I just liked fashion, I just liked clothes, but I also liked business, and I also liked, and so that's exactly what I continue to do. I went back to the White House a second time, and I got to present this idea on C-SPAN on behalf of the president for the Start of America initiative. And so I talked about how passionate I was about the need for change in order to help students have these resources in order to make their dreams a reality. And my speech got a ton of likes. I mean, there were senators and congresspeople, and the president watched my speech, and people started to take what I was saying really seriously. And so I worked with a foundation called the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, where they sort of train teachers to teach high school level kids how to start businesses and how to change their circumstances. And so it was incredible to see the impact that I was able to make on the education system, helping President Obama with this jobs administration plan in order to help more people have the ability to create jobs, giving entrepreneurs more resources and more support. It was amazing to see the influence that a teenage girl made on policy, just because I was outspoken about the fact that I think that there needs to be a change in the system, and that I was able to pick up on something, but everybody has the potential to do the exact same thing. And so I think my favorite part of all this has been just the reaction of students. I mean, I get to travel to elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, universities, and talk to these girls mostly, but students in general, about changing your mindset to think like, I can be an entrepreneur. Whatever it is that my skill is, I can create a business from that, and I can create jobs for other people. I can give back to my community. I can be empowered to not only change my own life, but change the lives of everyone around me. So now, I'm a junior at Northwestern, and I continue to sort of live my dream. I do some modeling sometimes, which is kind of a fun part. This is me getting ready for a campaign with Neutrogena Cosmetics. I'm still designing. I am the designer of my own company, Zoe Damacela Apparel. We sell clothes all over the world at zoedamacela.com. I put on fashion shows all over the world. I get to travel to a whole bunch of really exciting places and showcase my designs. This is just backstage at some fashion shows and different events. But I think the most important thing is I get to travel the world and talk to people about education reform. And so I've gone to different countries. I've gone to Switzerland, I've gone to Monte Carlo, I've gone to France and South America, and talked to people about training teachers to help kids get these resources so that everyone can have a story just like mine. All students, no matter where they come from, can have the ability to change their lives and change their circumstances. And that's really what my passion has been. And everybody has something that they're passionate about. And if everyone did something like this, I think that the world would be such a better place. So that is the end of my speech. I listed all of my contact information, so if you guys want to contact me about any questions, you can, or you can ask them now if you'd like.